2023 wasn't a good year for the Carolina Panthers, but I'm trying to make 2024 a better one for myself. Get started on your resolutions with Factor so you're ready for the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including keto options, calorie smart, vegan plus veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Skip that overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious than takeout. Get chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered right to your door, and they're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you. Head to factormeals.com/C350 and use the promo code C350 to get 50% off. That's code C350 at factormeals.com/C350 to get 50% off.
Enjoy all your favorite sports like never before at BetMGM. Sign up using code Hawkeye and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. When you register with BetMGM, you'll get instant access to a variety of parlay selection features, live betting options, player props, and the best daily promotions in the business. And with BetMGM at your fingertips, every play and every game matters more than ever. Place your money line, prop, and parlay bets with the king of sportsbooks today. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly and offer resources to help you make appropriate choices. BetMGM.com for T's and C's. 21 plus to wager. Iowa only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days from issuance. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
All right, you ready? Let's rock out.
Yeah, man. Yeah, let's do it.
Balls out. Recovered by Keithley. Right side is busting through, making the tackle. Shaq Thompson for a 3-yard loss.
Shaq busting through. My goodness. When you and what we see is North turning off is coming to fruition because Cam is actually a pocket quarterback. Who knew? Oh my goodness.
Tackles the Camry, busting through at the 30, 35, 40. Foot race down the right side. Here he goes at the 50, 40 to the Miami 30, 20 at the 10. A swipe with the ankles. They can't get him. Touchdown, Christian McCaffrey.
They can't get him. They can't get him. You're right.
They can't catch him, but you can catch us. It's Tuesday night, 9 p.m., and this is the C3 Panthers podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com. My name's Tony Dunn. They call me the Professor. I'm here every week chopping it up with my man, Cody Lashney. What is up? How you doing, my friend?
Tony, I come to you with a heavy heart, man. I need to get something off of my chest, and I figure what a better way to do it than on the show, on the podcast. I have to come clean with a dirty secret, my man, and I'm just going to come out and say it. I paid the referees. I was not going to have the New Orleans Saints in the Super Bowl. I paid the referees. I did what I had to do. The damage is done. I'm sorry. I had to get it off my chest. What else can I say, man? It's Tuesday night. I'm here with Tony Dunn. We're talking Panthers football. What else is there to say, man? I'm ready to go.
Well, the good news for Panther fans as we watch playoffs go down is that Saints fans are very sad this week, right? We'll be talking about the call, the missed call, the missed opportunity to throw a flag that resulted in the Los Angeles Rams winning the NFC Championship and advancing over the New Orleans Saints. We'll also be talking tonight, guys. Tonight's show is this: London calling, Saints blew that, and the Panthers defense undergoing philosophical change. Thank you guys for joining us in the chat room. We go ahead and encourage you to smash that thumbs up button. Thank you, James Woodley, for the super chat, man. How generous is that? Tons of thanks to Susan Dean, who's donated on Patreon. You can find that information in the show notes on YouTube. But really, folks, what we want you to do is help us just grow Panther Nation. You can do that by participating in the YouTube chat, sharing the stream on any Facebook group or wherever you hang out and talk about the Carolina Panthers. And go ahead and subscribe on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast. We're the longest running show, and tonight's episode is 18.51. We're one away from 52. Every Tuesday, we don't miss a beat unless it's a holiday, and we'll make it on Wednesday. But Cody, let's go ahead and let's just go ahead and jump right into the show. We're going to be expecting a guest here shortly, Bob Rose from the Canal Street Chronicles. He hangs a lot with the guys from Under the Dome podcast, who are right now, probably if you want to go watch some Saints in a really sad move, check them out after our show. But this week, the New Orleans Saints, they fell, Cody. They fell to the Los Angeles Rams. In fact, I would argue, actually, I just say this, they didn't fall to the Rams. The refs body slammed them, just like in your video there. Now, I went to Twitter and I said this: the way that the Saints lost was less satisfying than if they just got beat square, punched in the face to me. But a lot of Panther fans are relishing, enjoying the moment when it comes to the New Orleans Saints and the way they lost and the sadness that their fans are feeling. Cody, tell us how you feel about it, and then right after that, go ahead and bring in Bob.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, let's just be honest. It was a definite pass interference. I think anyone with a set of eyes knows that it was a pass interference. I think it was also a helmet to helmet. I mean, I don't know. It's definitely, I understand if you're a Saints fan, how you're devastated. I mean, all I know is I'm a little bit jaded because I know whenever the Carolina Panthers go to the Superdome, there's always a ton of no calls that I feel like we never get. But hey, man, everyone has their fandom and they're biased, and it's all subjective, But I don't agree with Sean Payton's game plan at that point in time, choosing to throw the ball instead of run the ball and take down the clock and put yourself in an opportunity to be able to kick a field goal and basically win the game at that point in time. So it's a tough one, man. I know people are pissed off.
Go ahead and bring in Bob. We're going to get his perspective on this. We want to see what New Orleans Saints fans are doing. Christian Musleeve, he says this: hey, what about all the calls the Rams didn't get? Now, look, as I can understand, is that it's not necessarily the best scenario to say that the refs blew a game for you and you're pointing to a call maybe somewhere earlier in the game or something like that. But this was so clear and so blatant at a time that a first down would have automatically run for the clock to not work. I mean, for the clock in the game to be over. I don't see how anybody can't say that not throwing that flag was the reason that this team didn't win. Now, on top of that, I feel like is that even if he would have caught the football, that was still a penalty, a helmet to helmet. And I would rather see the Saints get beat in the face than for them to have to be able to say, well, the refs did this to us for a year. Bob, are you there? Can you hear us? No, Bob.
I'm going to drop him out and try and pull him back.
Maybe you can try talking to him because sometimes the guests don't like to hear me. So okay. So one of the things that was a big deal to me for this is that I empathize with fans who have felt so much hope and so much an excitement in a moment that it's lost in that. And all I could think about myself is I certainly did not want the Saints to win at all in this game. But all I could think is how elusive a Super Bowl actually is, how difficult it is, and how all this can come down to a singular play. Now, last year when the Minnesota Vikings made that awesome play and Stephon Diggs took it to the house, I was laughing, ha, 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 in your face, because that's true heartbreak in a way that you got beat. You got beat. But I could not imagine what it would be like to have to be that close. I argue that I haven't seen a more impactful call in a sports contest or a football game than this that I can remember.
I very respectfully disagree with you, my man, because this was a catch, my man. Jericho Carter caught that pass in the Super Bowl. It may not have been as egregious, but if Jericho would have been ruled what it should have been, a catch, then the strip sack isn't a touchdown in the end zone. Our defense has a chance to make a stand. That was a big moment for us. Jericho Carter caught that football, man. We're on different pages, but it's okay, man. I do understand. It was a bad call by the refs. Yeah, it was a bad one. We're gonna try and bring in Bob one more time and see if he can hear us and we can hear him and try and get his opinion on the matter. Bob, are you there?
It says connection retrying. Hold on 1 second. Let the internet catch up with the fastest insane podcast on the internet.
Bob, are you there?
No Bob. All right, Bob.
No Bob.
Well, we'll try to catch you again a different time. Man, that stinks.
Either that or Bob, try and refresh, exit out, and come back in. We'll try one more time, and if it doesn't work, then we'll grab you another time, my man.
All right, so look, I'm certainly not crying for the Saints. I don't feel bad for necessarily Sean Payton or Cameron or all that. I want though, if I was to win this game, is that I would wish my team had won in a more authentic, honest way. You know, is that at some point you feel like, man, like, yeah, I technically won, but I know that I also flipped the die one time when you weren't looking. And so there is some sort of integrity in my trash talk. Like, I want to laugh in your face on the internet when we win the Super Bowl, when we beat your team. I do think that this was so egregious. Now, I was trying to think about this, is that you said that the Kotri catch was as pivotal and as decisive. The only other, one game, and I'm picking all games that Panther fans aren't going to like. They picked up that flag on Monday Night Football against, I think it was Monday Night or Sunday Night Football against the Patriots, where Luke Kuechly ran into that receiver while that ball was in the air. And that was arguably, it could have gone. I mean, I'm glad they picked it up. I do think that, hey, it would have been a little soft of a flag. But that one actually decided the outcome of a game. But a game that had much lower stakes, right, than an NFC.
You mean that Monday Night Football against the Patriots, Luke on Gronk?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I do remember that. Yeah, and I think Luke even later went on to admit that probably should have been a flag.
Right. But the stakes much lower. Let's go ahead and try to bring Bob in one more time and see if this works. And I'll keep talking about it as you do that. I think, too, you point to the Kotri catch and you go, hey, this could have led to this, could have led to this. That penalty, though, would have led to the down and distance required to win, right? That is once they would have gotten that penalty, they would have just taken a knee and the game would have been over. So I think with the Kotri issue, that you would have just had to, some other things would have had to have happened still.
Yeah, there definitely would have been some other things to have happened. I think that whole game they were officiating very lightly. I think there was a bunch of flags that could have went either way that were not thrown and called. I think the referees just kind of made a point to say, hey, we're going to let them play and let bygones be bygones and just see how it goes. Bob, can you hear us?
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Bob Rose, can you hear us? We can see you. Make sure you... Can you hear me?
Hey, Bob.
I can hear you. Yeah, Tone.
Yeah. All right. So, Bob, if you could tell us this, after you guys have been robbed by that game, which was clearly a flag, how are you dealing with this as a Saints fan?
Well, I tried to put my fist through the wall 6 or 7 times right after the game. But most of my sports collectibles made it through the evening. And I heard you guys talking about the Minnesota game last year. And you're right. It is such a different feeling. A lot of Saints fans, as I'm sure you guys can imagine, are going through this 7 stages of sports grief right now. And a lot of them are stuck in anger. Look, it is what it is. The Rams are not going to have an asterisk by this NFC Championship. It's tainted, and it should be tainted. But you know what? If the George Halas Trophy is going to their place, not New Orleans, the Lombardi Trophy, if they win it, is going in their trophy case, not New Orleans. And there's not a darn thing that anybody can do about it. I'm sure you guys are seeing a lot of things about class action lawsuits and things like that. Fans throwing up a lot of clauses in the NFL rulebook that the commissioner has the power to overturn this game or to force a rematch. And while that is true, anybody that actually thinks that that's going to happen, I've got swampland in New Mexico to sell you, because it's not. I don't know how closely you guys follow my work through the Canal Street Chronicles, but I posted an article this morning. To me, the headline says it all, is the thievery robbed Saints of NFC Championship. But I went on in the piece to say, and I pointed out not only that play, the pass interference / helmet to helmet / mugging in the night / everything. But I went on to point out a couple other egregious calls. And I said, this isn't referee incompetence. This is referee corruption. And I realize that that's a strong word, and there's a lot of proof that would need to go into it. And I'm not going to sit here and say that the referee crew or the league or even Goodell himself is out to get the Saints. My point behind it was, for so long now, we have seen the officials been given the power to influence the outcome of a game. And I know you guys are strong football fans and football aficionados too, more so than just the Carolina Panthers. All of us had the same fear that a championship game would come down to the black and white stripes. And that's exactly what happened. And that robbed fans of both sides. I hate having this conversation. And I hated having the conversation all day today with Rams fans or Saints haters, why the referees were at fault or why the referees were not at fault. We should have been talking about 2 very, very good teams playing their butts off. But instead, we have to talk about this. And for that, I blame the league and the man at the very top. And to me, the entire thing needs to be investigated.
How do you respond to this? And my question to you is, a lot of Panther fans and just around Twitter have said there were a lot of missed calls on the Saints against the Rams, pointing to several face masks. To me, I feel like this one was, and this is just my opinion, you probably heard me at the beginning, is ultimately I felt like this one was a flag that was a real flag that would have led to a knee on the ground for the next end game over at that point. So to me, it's maybe a miss. It's kind of like, maybe not one play determines a game entirely, but as you get closer to the end of the game, they get exponentially more important. So, the first play of the game and the last play of the game are not equal in plays in where I'm coming from. So how do you respond to people who say, look, is New Orleans got away with a bunch of flags there, and this is just how it goes?
Look, those people have a point. They do. But we could sit down and watch every single NFL game played this year and say that was a hold and that was a face mask and that should have been called a personal foul. I agree with what you said. It's in the moment. And when something is that egregious, you have to throw the flag, especially when you have I saw 2 referees looking directly at the play. Other people claim 3. Regardless, there should be at least one pair of eyes on that pass pattern, Roby Coleman and Tommy Lee Lewis. And there is no more text definition of pass interference and helmet to helmet than was on that play. You're right. The people that say, the people that say, well, this missed flag and that missed flag, they're right. But you could sit through any football game and do that. And I acknowledge that in the article, too, when I pointed out the amount of times that Cam Jordan was getting mugged all game long. And I realize that kind of thing is subjective. But when it comes down to a game-changing and a game-deciding play, you have to follow the rules. I'm not saying make an exception. I'm not even saying do or don't cheat. That was a violation of the rules, and it doesn't get any more clear than that.
Bob, I hear everything that you're saying. And listen, I mean, I try and put myself in your shoes. Obviously, I'm not a Saints fan. I have a brother who is, so our house gets lively when the Panthers and the Saints play. But, I understand the frustration must be immense. However, I do have to be honest with you, and I'm just going to shoot straight with you. And I definitely want to get your opinion on this. I feel at the end of the game, the play calling for the Saints was kind of questionable. I don't really understand why Sean Payton, you're down the field. Why is Sean Payton choosing to throw a slant pass on first down instead of choosing to run the ball, eat up some more of the clock, and put yourself in position to be able to kick a field goal right there? Do you think there's any onus on the Saints to have been better in this game? Because I do feel that for the majority of the football game, even though the Saints, it felt like they were dominating, the Rams were always right there. They were never out of the football game. So how much of this loss is on Sean Payton, Drew Brees, and the Saints team?
There's a lot of loss on their shoulders because although the game was basically decided by that non-pass interference call, it was still a very close game down the wire. And the Saints did leave a lot of opportunities on the field. The first 2 drives of the game, they got field goals. You have to convert at least one of those into touchdowns, especially after Demario Davis's interception put the ball at the Rams 16. And I think they got 3 or 4 yards in the next 3 plays. You need to score touchdowns in those kind of situations. New Orleans was not able to run the ball effectively all day. And they rang up about 150 yards rushing when they played the Rams in October. So they didn't have a balanced attack because they were unable to run the ball effectively. The defense gave up a Rams touchdown right at the end of the first half, and then we know what happened at the end of the game. So when the game was on the line, the defense, who played well all game, the defense came up a little bit short. And then the play calling at the end. I personally don't necessarily have a problem with that play because that's who Sean Payton and Drew Brees are.
I heard Sean Payton called a run and Drew Brees checked out of it.
I've heard that too, but I haven't heard any acknowledgement one way or the other. Not only from either one of those guys, but from people who cover the team even a little bit more closely than I do. I've not heard acknowledgement one way or another. Those 2 guys, neither one would throw the other under the bus anyway. But as far as that play call, I mean, it was an awful throw by Drew Brees. It was at Michael Thomas's feet. What essentially happened was as soon as that play was incomplete, all of us realized it's like, okay, well, they can't run. The key was first down right there. If you run the ball, like you said, then you're basically saying, okay, we're going to run the clock as far down as we can, kick the go-ahead field goal, and leave you with about 40 seconds on the clock with no timeouts. That's personally what I would have chosen to do. Right. But Sean Payton is who Sean Payton is, and same with Drew Brees. I wasn't surprised to see them throw the ball. I was just disappointed, very disappointed in the execution of the play.
I understand what you're saying. And, I remember thinking, man, this is another question I wanted to put forth is after that Dallas Cowboys game, after that loss in the season, it seems like something happened to that Saints offense that made it go from really high-powered to just enough to win the football game. So in your summation, what happened to this offense that was putting up crazy numbers every Sunday to make it go from that to kind of flat out of nowhere?
The four major factors. I think the number one key factor was injuries along the offensive line really started to take a toll. Now Armstead had been out for a couple of weeks by that Cowboys game. But Bushrod played well, but he was designed to only go for a short period of time. And then Pete got injured. He got injured as well. Actually had surgery on his hand going into the playoffs, but he was still beat up down the stretch, and same with Unger. That's your center, your left guard, and your left tackle. And we understand that Warford and Ramczyk weren't in terrific health either. So the offensive line wore down a little bit, and that was a unit that had dominated all year. That's factor number one. Factor number two was that the secondary, the complementary targets for the New Orleans Saints, they weren't doing their job. They weren't getting separation. They weren't getting open well enough for Breeze, which allowed defenses to stack against the passing game against Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. Factor three was, to me, it looked like Kamara wore down a little bit towards the end of the season. And because of that, he got a lot of carries and a lot of touches early on. And to me, he looked like he was worn down a little bit. He was rejuvenated and had two decent playoff games against the Eagles and of course the Rams. But still, and this brings you to a whole other topic for the offseason. If the Saints don't re-sign Mark Ingram, who is a free agent, they're going to need a bona fide number two back to take some of that onus away from Kamara. And four, and this has drawn the ire of a lot of Saints fans, Drew Brees is a lot closer to the end than he is in the beginning. And it was my opinion, and I was fairly vocal about it, that down the stretch he had a tired arm. He can't get the ball deep like he used to, and defenses know that. It took them half the season this year to realize that. But once that, and Brees is still as accurate as they come, the most accurate quarterback in NFL history. But defenses no longer fear that deep ball. One reason is the Saints wideouts, other than Ginn, aren't geared to go deep. But the other is they don't think that Drew can get the ball down the field. And in both playoff games this year, he couldn't get the ball down the field. Even that pass to Ginn to set up, the couple of plays before that non-pass interference, he completed that 40 or 35-yard pass to Ginn to put them in the red zone, but that ball was hanging up there like a lollipop. Ted made a great in-air adjustment just to get to the ball.
Best catch of Ted Ginn's career. That was the best catch of Ted Ginn's career, to be honest.
It was right up there if it wasn't the best. But yeah, I mean, I think that those four major factors are why the Saints offense struggled a lot down the stretch.
All right, my last question for you, Bob, is I've heard some people talking about conspiracy theories, and the conspiracy theory to have the Rams in over the Saints. I want to get your thoughts on that, but I'm going to tell you what I think about this and what I don't understand about that theory. Is to me, I think the Saints makes one of the most compelling. The Saints-Patriots makes one of the more compelling Super Bowl matchups that you could think of. Tom Brady at the end of his career, Drew Brees towards the end of his career, two greats, right? And matching up there, I think there's plenty of storyline there. What is the belief behind the idea that having the Rams in is just overall better for the NFL?
Reason number one, if you subscribe to the conspiracies, reason number one is an LA team, LA market. They need to justify, they being the league, need to justify the existence of the NFL back in Los Angeles. They are desperate to make this thing work. Now, I'm not saying that that's the conspiracy that's going on. I am just, I like to add fuel to the fire every now and then. That's the primary reason for a Los Angeles team in the Super Bowl. Reason number 2, who did the New England Patriots start their dynasty against? The Rams.
The Rams.
Oh, okay.
And,
I like that.
And I don't think any of us would disagree that the Patriots are at the end of their run. And the Rams could very well be at the beginning, although they have all those mercenaries on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
They have a very young offensive roster, young coach, young quarterback, young running back, and a good solid on both lines. So the Rams could very well be at the beginning of a dynasty. And what juicier storyline is the Los Angeles Rams begin their new dynasty by ending the dynasty of the team that ended the potential St. Louis Rams dynasty. To me, it's a juicy storyline. I don't know if I'm willing to subscribe to that particular conspiracy, but it does make for some juicy water cooler talk.
All right. Well, okay, Bob. So thanks for coming on the show. We wanted to get just kind of, and this, hopefully you saw that this was not meant to be a rub it in your face moment, even though I'm sure plenty of Panther fans have done that. I was rooting for you guys to lose. But at the same time, I do think that was a penalty, even if my man would have caught the ball. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if he caught the ball, that's still a penalty in this league, helmet to helmet. And you got to wonder too, if maybe the way to adjust this going forward is to not make some radical overhaul of the rules when it comes to review, but maybe as you get within the last 5 minutes of a game, or you pick an arbitrary number, even if it's within 2 minutes, maybe that any play can be reviewed just by the third party, by wherever they're at, New York or wherever they look at it from. I don't know. I don't want to over officiate a league, but this is one of those rare cases where not throwing the flag, usually it's the flag that's the problem.
I know.
So that's bizarre. All right, what's the name of the story one more time so people can go check it out on Canal Street Chronicles?
Thievery cost Saints an NFC title.
All right, Bob, thanks a lot for coming on. We're going to hit you back up after you guys get over this and we get back to just hating on you in the normal fashion.
Definitely. I want to have you guys on my show in the off season too, as we go through the division, talk about free agency needs in the draft. Like I said, it's a shame we have to sit here and have this kind of conversation because it's always a pleasure to come on with you guys. And the fans that follow your show are always very respectful to me as well. I think it's safe to say that we have a pretty bitter but at least respected rivalry between our two factions.
Yeah, if you were the Falcons, though, I don't even know if it would have mattered.
Good point. Right back at you. So.
All right, man. All right, Bob, you have a good one.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
All right, Cody. That's Bob Rose.
Have a nice night, man.
That's Bob Rose, Canal Street Chronicles. Look, Bob's come on the show several times, and I didn't want, and I know Panther fans like to talk big. Every fan base likes to talk big, like, ha, this makes it better. Should I feel guilty that this makes me feel better? But y'all know that, like, you know, it's just like this, is that it's tainted. I think that's a good word, tainted. It's just like the Super Bowl, the Patriots cheating in the Super Bowl. That's tainted stuff, and it's just not the same substance. I wanted them to lose. I wanted, to me, I think the real reason that the Saints actually deserve to win that game is what the hell are they doing benching Todd Gurley for some damn C.J. Anderson? There's got to be something wrong with Todd Gurley. There has to be something wrong.
That's another thing. There is no way in hell Todd is healthy right now. I mean, why would he be on the sideline on the bike pedaling during the football game, during maybe the biggest game no, definitely the biggest game that he's ever been in his entire life. They may not be telling you what's wrong with Todd Gurley, but he is definitely not healthy, or else they would have not been just relentlessly pounding C.J. Anderson up the middle.
All right, you're listening to the C3 Panthers podcast. You can call into the Cat Calls line. The number's 252-228-5098. You can follow us on Twitter at @cat_chronicles. Go ahead, turn your phone to portrait mode, smash that thumbs up button, subscribe, share the show. Christian Musleeve says they announced today that Gurley is hurt. I know he was nursing an injury. He did play in the game. It was crazy to see him standing there and C.J. Anderson in the game. But let's go to the big news. Back to Panthers, because if anything, this discussion, Cody, was because this is a rival. As you get closer and closer to the Super Bowl, how much more those games mean to the other team. And I am glad they lost and that Saints fans are miserable. But actually, let's finish it out. Cody, let's go ahead and play the video of a tweet I saw that I loved that said, "You ever been to a party that turned into a funeral? Here it goes."
Before I play it, I want to read what I labeled the video. I put, "Ain't no party like a New Orleans Saints party," because a New Orleans Saints party comes to an abrupt stop.
The kick is good. Sirline clutch, and with 15 seconds left.
Oh, man. Sorry, Bob. I see Bob Rose is in the chat room. Sorry, man. We had to, dude. Yeah, man. They those went from some happy Saints fans to some real disappointed ones.
Boy. And I do one point I thought was interesting. I was going to ask when Bob was on, is for the people that do say that one call doesn't influence the game or one play isn't the determinant of the game. Were those same people saying Gano didn't lose us those games when he missed those kicks? Like you better stay consistent. You just best stay consistent, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to listen. Like I said, and I think that Bob really, he hit on something. And I was talking about this with my brother, who's a diehard Saints fan, and Drew Brees, man, he was missing some throws. It does seem now like that as Bob alluded to, that deep ball, which used to be just money for him, kind of just isn't there anymore. And I think that teams knew that and they saw that and they were able to game plan around that. And very soon the Saints are going to have to address that quarterback position. And whether it's Teddy Bridgewater or some guy that they draft, they're going to have to figure it out.
All right, guys, this is the big news and really what the whole show should be about, particularly because there are so many supporters that we have, so many loyal supporters from Rich Kingston and my boy Jay. Yeah, boy, right? These guys are following a team from another country. It's such an admirable thing, and they will be rewarded in 2019 as the Carolina Panthers are London bound, my friend. And it has been announced that the Carolina Panthers will play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in London. I believe it's called Wembley Stadium. I have to go triple check that. But look, is that the Panthers are going to lose? Who loses the home game here?
I believe it's Tampa Bay. That's what I heard. Now I could be wrong. I don't have it up right now. I'll do a little intel search while we're talking about it. But I do believe that it is Tampa losing a home game and not us.
So the Panthers, I saw that on Roar and Riot that they have already sold 500 or locked up 500 deposits for the trip. What's cool to me about that is that everybody's going no matter what, and I don't think anybody knows the date yet, do they? Because we don't know the schedule.
No, we won't know until the schedule comes out, which I think that's a few months away still.
These people in the chat room got to stop this blasphemy. This is blasphemy. They're trying to say I'm a closet Saints fan. I was previously a Saints fan. Come on, guys. I've been pulling for the Panthers probably longer than you were. Half of you were born anyway. But the point is that, like, I am a sports fan at the same time. I didn't want them to win. But, man, the Moog got mugged in his helmet. It's just like this is when Cam Newton was getting mugged by the Denver Broncos. They should have been flags. They just should have been. That's all. That's it. But all right, yeah. So they all picking on me in the chat room because I didn't just gloat in my man's face. I could have been like, Bob, how's it feel to be miserable, Mo? All right, but the people that are happy, let's revert the discussion back to England. The people that are happy are the fans across the pond as the Panthers are going to go there. And really, this is, I think we all knew this was coming based on the fact. There's one single fact is that Zach Luttrell, the founder of the Roaring Riot, has traveled to Britain like twice in the last year. And I don't think my man went by himself to go just meet with the Roaring Riot, the Royal Riot in Britain to show his thanks for these 8 fans. Now, look, is that maybe he did that and they did thank him. But damn, I mean, this was the clues were there that Panthers were about due for a time in London, and a lot of teams and the league has said that, you know, they wanted more than the Jacksonville Jaguars out there.
Yeah, they get a few different teams out there, but the only one that matters is the Carolina Panthers. And you know, I know I'm gonna botch this. I probably should have done some research while you were talking, but you know, Charlotte is called Mecklenburg County. And that's because, and the reason why it's called the Queen City is because there was a queen from England who was set to be betrothed to Mecklenburg, some German royalty or whatever. So Charlotte does have somewhat of a connection over to the UK. I know I just butchered the shit out of that. I apologize to anyone who actually knows the story better. But yeah, man, I want to shout out to my man Rich Kingston, who I know he's going to be in our cat calls. He talks with me on Twitter all the time. Think of it this way, man. You're a Panther fan. You're living in another time zone. They don't even play the sport on your continent, yet you're a diehard Panthers fan. Now you have the opportunity to see your team live, and that has to be a real cool experience. I mean, even if you weren't able to go, I mean, just imagine being around the bars and the atmosphere, and Panthers fans from all over are going to be all around the area swarming. Yeah, that's a cool moment. I do know one thing: they're going to have to wake up a little bit earlier, because that means for us to watch, it's going to be on around like 9 in the morning or something like that. It's going to be on early. So Panther fans are going to have to wake up a little bit earlier than they're used to on a Sunday to check out this game against Tampa. And it might be important depending on what time of the year it is.
One of the things that people are bringing up in the chat room is that this that the one challenging thing about the trip to London is, while it's such a great outreach in there, and so many of those fans will never get to see the team in person if they didn't get to go there, but that this is a scheduling nightmare and has probably been the one thing that was that's holding the NFL from going international just in an instant in so many ways, is that we already have a problem with scheduling bye weeks. There's already a lot of concern about how authentic the concern for the health of the players is when you have them play on short weeks. Thursday night football, we all know how bad Thursday night football has been, and look, the Panthers were victim of that this year, and a lot of people suggest that there is so much put on the fact that that having a short week is hard, not only for preparation, but also on the recovery time for these players. So right there is, how does this fit in to the rest of the schedule? How do the Panthers get there and not have kind of the lag effect? And either way, you put a bye after it, before it, either way is that there's some lag. Maybe the best thing for them to do is to play on Thursday night football the week before, to have 10 days before they play again, and then to have the bye after the trip to England. So that way they have a kind of a mini bye followed by a real bye.
That would definitely be for the better, but knowing the NFL, they're probably not going to do it for us. And Jedi Jor in the chat has corrected me. She was from Mecklenburg, which is in Germany, and she married into the royal family. So that's where Queen City comes from in Charlotte. So there you go. There's the connection between the Carolina Panthers and good old Great Mother Britain. But we're trying to bring Joey on. We're going to see if he has a connection. But yeah. I mean, one of the things I'm interested in is if F.A. Obada going to be on the team at that point in time. The Panthers Twitter have been putting out videos of him talking about playing in London, and he's been saying it gives him more motivation to be able to make the football team. So it'll be interesting to see if F.A. can continue to make an impact on our roster and play in his hometown.
I want to be clear. Jeremy Clancy says, didn't know the bye was after, but still don't like it. We don't know either. What we're just speculating is that that's the most humane way to deal with two teams traveling, is to maybe have the problem though is that you can't have both of them play on Thursday night before. So one team potentially could get a little more help than another.
Yes.
And I think what this continues to do, for me, what I would like to see the Panthers do, not the Panthers, the NFL do to remedy some of these things. I'd like for them to expand the roster a little bit, so that there wasn't so much pressure on guys to play injured all the time, and that you could have a little bit more depth on a roster. Maybe you slim it to 75, 53. I feel like a lot of times there are good players, healthy players that don't get a hat because of different things. I don't know what the number is, but I think that would help. And I think the other thing would be to institute the concept of two buys, to have two buys throughout the season, one in the beginning or mid, the first half, and one in the second half. And you just have less games on 1 week. You know what I'm saying? Is that it's just like, instead of having those days where we have 10 games on at 1:00, that week you had 6. And we actually get one more week of football that way. Maybe push the Super Bowl back a week if to do it, if that's necessary. But if the goal is revenue making, right, is like, can we do it in a way that doesn't lose football time, but actually adds to the value of the product in the long term?
I think there are many different fixes that could be made to optimize it for players. Listen, if you hear the players that all talk about Thursday night football, playing on such short notice, the toll that it takes on their bodies is just insane. Some of the worst injuries that happened to the Panthers happened on Thursday. That's when Luke got that bad concussion in 2016. It happens a lot, and it happens to a lot of different players. Someone said in the chat that Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're having to make that flight also. So it is kind of an even playing field.
It's more for the game after, though. Really, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's not even that game. Because I wasn't one that liked to say that the Steelers had such an advantage over us on that 4-day week, but people did say, look, you're losing a whole travel day, they're losing a half a travel day, and they get to practice in their own town. So I could see that. But for me, this is the problem with the international games and going so far, is really how do you place them in the larger scheme of the schedule?
Well, but how about this, man? It seems as though to everyone that the NFL, they're dead set on having a team in London. Like they're trying to build a fan base over there, I think, and many people think, to be able to have a team over there, which I have no idea how you would ever do that. It's one thing to have a few games during the year take place in Wembley Arena, but then having a team in the division, having to have 3 or more teams every year fly over there twice a year sometimes, like that's just insanity to me. But all the talks is that NFL wants at some point to have a team in London. So I don't know how they would work through that logistical nightmare, but that's what it's pointing.
You're going to have to add the bye. You add the bye, you might be able to get to do it.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
All right, so we do have an international fan base, and we're going to hear from them on the Cat Calls line. The number's 252-228-5098. Let's jump into these cat calls and see what these cats got to say.
So what are your thoughts on cat calls?
Yeah, you shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Oh.
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think cat calling makes the person...
Yeah.
I totally messed up the intro, so what we're going to have to just do is I got to drag the call over here. I totally just laid them right over each other. I told you I had to go somewhere right before the show.
It's coming to London. Oh, what a day. Tony, Cody, Joey, everyone out there in Panther Nation, what a day. Tampa Bay's home game will be in London against the Panthers, and all of Panther Nation will try and be there. I'm so excited. I've registered interest. God knows I'm going to have to start raiding the piggy bank to make sure I can go. But, what a fantastic day. Can't wait. I'm going to start posting pictures of iconic sites across London. I work in London and I whiz around the place all the time. So I'll take some pictures and post them on your tweet. So anyone listening that follows the guys on Twitter, I'll tag them in to take a look. I'll be exactly by Wembley Stadium tomorrow, where the game might be. So it's an iconic stadium. It's the home of English football. It was rebuilt recently. I think it's 90,000 capacity. Fingers crossed that it's there, because otherwise it will be at Tottenham Stadium, which is only 60,000 and hasn't even been built yet. However, that will probably be quite nice once it is done. I think it has been built. They're just having trouble with the fire extinguishers. There you go. Anyway, what a day. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Everybody, Roaring Riot, Panther Nation, everything, F.A. Abada's family, everyone's going nuts. Can't wait. It'll be fascinating to see how big the support for the Panthers is in the UK, but it might well be one of the most underrated size-wise fan bases of any NFL team, because I think it's huge. I don't know if it was the Super Bowl run a few years ago.
Nice, man. I love that.
I've been a fan since before the team even played a game. I was a Redskins fan in the 80s, and then the Panthers were born, and I'd worked in North Carolina for North Carolina 4-H, and so I picked the Panthers to be my team going forward. And here we are, so a chance to see them. Anyway, guys, the draft, Cody and I have been going back and forth about the draft. We want Cleveland Fell, or we want Jonah Williams, or we want Nasser Adderley in the first round. And after that, there's a hot dog, Dalton Reisner. There's a load. We want O-line in the second round, but probably one of those first three. Maybe Cody Ford, but he's a right tackle, and we're not a right tackle. But Ferrell would be great. He's our kind of defensive end. But Adderley is getting a lot of hype at the moment. Remember that name, Nasser Adderley from Delaware. He's going to be at the Senior Bowl, and he's getting absolutely mega hype. But he's like a best case scenario, he's Earl Thomas. Worst case scenario, he's a bit like Earl Thomas. So pair him with Dante and Bradbury.
All right,
Earl Thomas.
Here is his second part of his call right here.
It's coming to London! I just thought I'd reveal my excitement further by doing that again.
Hey, man, I think this is well deserved.
Yeah, fantastic. So O-line, D-line. Yeah, everyone. Jermaine Carter's Maryland teammate in the linebacking core, I think it's Trey Watson. Keep an eye out for him in the coming weeks. Jermaine actually replied to my tweet and said he had 5 picks this year or something as a linebacker. So maybe around 4 or 5. We haven't got a 7 this year. I think we've only got 4, 5, 6. So watch out for that. That might be quite a nice late round pickup if no one gets in. Maybe round 4. But a ball hawk in the linebacking crew wouldn't do us any harm. Apart from that, Super Bowl, thank God the Saints aren't there. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy in Sean Payton, even if it was. My timeline on Twitter was brilliant between everyone disgusted that it was such a horrendous call, and then all the Panthers fans loving every second of it. Yeah, what a fantastic time. Anyway, I'm sure Tom Brady's going to pick up his 19th Super Bowl ring and go home to his hideous wife Giselle afterwards. So he's really going to have a in the next few weeks. Anyway,
See,
guys,
it is overrated.
Deliriously happy. Keep bounding, and thanks for doing the show, guys. It's fantastic, and everyone out there, we'll see you in London. London!
All right, so
London calling.
I want to. I've already dropped the hint to my wife, like, hey, this is actually an opportunity for us to go. And to go and talk, to hang with Rich, to hang with my boy Jay Cryer would be an amazing thing. I do, you wonder about the logistics overall of it, of how it would work in the long term if they were going to bring in a team from London. But, they've already been making forays into Mexico City as well. These are giant markets, man. There's something like 50 million people live in Mexico City or something crazy like that. So there is so much. I mean, if you almost think about it, it would be like Netflix not going to another country at some point. At some point, it just seems like, but the logistics are difficult to kind of figure out when we have no idea. But hopefully the people that are getting paid big bucks are thinking about that. So, any thoughts on the call about the draft? Thinking forward to the draft.
Yeah, so, listen, the Senior Bowl is going on right now. There's an echo, Tony. You might want to check your portals. The Senior Bowl is going on right now. And the receivers. It's a great opportunity to see some of the players that are going to be making up the bulk of the rosters of these NFL teams coming up this next season. I mean, you're talking about first-round picks that play at the Senior Bowl. And Rich Kingston, him and I have been talking on Twitter. His draft crush is far and away Nasir Adley. He is a safety out of Delaware. And Tony, we've been saying for a long time that, we want to, if we sign Eric Reed, drop him down to the box, let him be a strong safety. Man, Nasir Adley at the top of the field, playing that free safety position. He's a guy that we'll preview at some point. His drawing, rave reviews, incredibly athletic, super fast, powerful, heavy hitter. And he's a punt returner, too. So top end speed. Nasir Adley is a name to look out for. And yeah, man, overall, like I said, I want to say it one more time. I'm happy for Rich to be able to see the Panthers. All the Panther fans in London, in the UK. Has to be an incredible opportunity. And yeah, man, I'm happy for you, dude.
I just know this is that some of the most, and maybe it's because of the distance away from the market, but some of our greatest supporters in all of the time that we've had from the show are a lot of times from outside of North Carolina. They could be, sometimes we've had supporters, like we have several people from England, there is J-Dub, right? Is that, I mean, and these guys are craving information about the team in a place where they're not getting a ton of access. I think at times people from Charlotte are a little pampered, and not pampered, I mean, it's fine, is they just have a lot of exposure to the team, even if it's local radio or whatever, where that maybe they don't find an outlet like this podcast is beneficial. But, you know, it is nice to hear those guys that I know have cheered for this team so admirably and so authentically to be rewarded. Joe Riolano, are you there, my friend?
Joe, are you there?
I can hear him, I feel like, but he can't hear us. Poor Joey. What a week. What a week. Yeah. And what a struggle with the technology here. Is that he must have his volume all the way down. If you could message him, that would be great. I'm gonna mute his mic though, because I can kind of hear it just a hair. All right. So going on, let's go ahead and we're gonna continue with the cat calls. I think I got some more lined up here. Let's see what we got next.
The Saints are not going to the Super Bowl. Kelvin Benjamin's not going to have a Super Bowl ring either.
That call deserves one more play. Here it goes again.
The Saints are not going to the Super Bowl. And Kelvin Benjamin's not going to have a Super Bowl ring either.
Boom! Take that. I love that. Best call. Great call. Great call. If we weren't going to give Rich the honorary call because he called from another country, that's the best call of the night right there. Is that if anything, I had a friend ask me, he said, who are you cheering for this week? And I said, I'm cheering for the Rams, and the Rams only to win. And I'm cheering maybe for the Chiefs to beat the Patriots, but the Rams to beat the Chiefs. He was like, how the heck are you not cheering for the Chiefs? I said, Kelvin Benjamin's on the roster. I don't think he gets this. Yep. He should not get a Super Bowl ring. That's my opinion. So let me see, is that I'm going to unmute Joe. Joe Riolano, are you in the house or not in the house?
Joe's not in the house. He's not even responding to my IMs.
Okay. All right. He doesn't even know we brought him in. That's the thing is he probably joined. He probably walked away. All right. So going on with this, we've got one last cat call. I believe this is, let me see. It's in here somewhere. Let me see. I think I got Carl D lined up here. He's got some things to say.
All right, what's up, C3? This is your buddy, your homie. This is Carl D.
What up, Carl D?
This call is going to be a quick call. I will be calling back later on. So sometime in the podcast, you will get my draft board call. But this call is right here. Tony, Cody, and Joey, if you're still there. Or what I just heard, I just heard Ron Rivera is hiring somebody to come in and help him with his time management. Tony, if this is true, are you freaking kidding me? In the words of a guy named Miz, really? Really? Really now? Really?
All right.
Wow. You mean to tell me this is the coach that come back? This is the same coach we supposed to be so excited about coming back to coach us for at least one more season. Has to waste Panthers money to hire somebody to teach him how to time manage a game. Wow, the dude, how long has he been our coach? 9 years. and he still haven't learned how to.
Well, Andy Reid doesn't know how to do it either.
Time manager game. Wow. And all you Rivera apologists, as I said, be careful what you wish for. You wanted him back, you got him back, and this is what you get. A sorry game manager guy has to waste our team money.
It's not wasting any money. We got a billionaire owner.
Time manage the game. Wow. Cody, you on the same boat with me. If Rivera should be gone. What do you think about this? To me, this is ridiculous, and this just shows why I say get rid of his butt should be gone out of here.
All right, so there's Carl D
right.
there. He's upset still with us keeping Ron Rivera. The idea, though, is referring to is that, and I think Ben Bowman is really onto it here, as he says, I think, and this is in the YouTube chat, I think he was forced to do so by Tepper. It's also a trend around the league. Now, I will say is that if you think it's bad to have a clock management coach, the LA Rams have a move Sean Payton coach. And there is a coach that follows Sean Payton around because he likes to be so on the tiptoe of the line that when do you remember when Chris Sims got blasted by the ref who was just like standing on the sidelines, not paying attention to what was happening, and the ref like pushed him out of the way? Sean McVay has a guy who follows him around, and anytime the ref is coming, he grabs Sean McVay by the waist and pulls him back. And it's over and over. It's the strangest thing I've ever seen. So, but here is, I think Ben Bowman's right on this, is that, look, this is a weakness that it has not been one of Ron Rivera's strengths. So I don't think doing it is a bad thing. But again, it does show like, hey, I've always found this bizarre, is with Ron Rivera being a defensive coach, where seconds are like dollars to you, and you got to be cautious and careful how you spend them and where they go. I just assumed that defensive-minded coaches would have a better handle on the clock, but maybe it's offensive guys because they're trying to squeeze as much time out as possible.
Yeah, but not necessarily. I mean, look at Andy Reid. Andy Reid is an offensive-minded coach, and he's notorious for being bad at clock management. So, and by the way, it's also not coincidental that Ron Rivera comes from the Andy Reid coaching tree or whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, man. I mean, I didn't hear the story that Carl is referring to about the guy being hired, but I mean, I do think that, yeah, it's a little bit ridiculous. And I do think that this is a David Tepper move. I remember in that David Tepper interview, he was saying that clock management and the pace of which the team moves is something that he wanted to be addressed. And listen, man, what Papa says is what Papa goes. You know, that man is the owner of the franchise now, and what he says, that's what happens. So it's not something I'm surprised about. And listen, if you're gonna have Ron Rivera, I damn sure want someone to be on the team to hold him accountable and make him better at managing the clock and using timeouts, because it's obvious that Ron Rivera is not getting better at this on his own accord. I mean,
he's getting worse. Honestly, it feels like he's getting worse.
So I mean, listen, if you're going to have Ron Rivera as a head coach for another year, then I certainly don't mind someone helping him out to be better in this area that has been a problem for him his entire time here.
Where the hell is Norv at? Like, I mean, what the heck? It's like you'd think you have all of these people that have been around football all the time. They know that we better be ready to call a timeout. So this is strange. We got a couple more. The Cat Calls line, the number's 252-228-5098. Let's see what you guys got to queue up about the C3 Panthers podcast.
Hey, Tony. Good games this weekend. I got you something, though.
Black and gold, I see that. Not a Super Bowl ring, look, I see that. Look, we done heard it all, give me feedback. And on Sunday, you know what I see at. I'm a fly back, Zodiac, it's on the track, my wife see on the running back. Get me running up the door like a break track. And if you ask who, I'm a fair weed at.
Tony, the Closet Saint fan.
God, look at that. They're calling up harassing me. They're calling me
They're talking shit on my man.
Harassing me. Is that this? That's fine. That's fine. Y'all think that, y'all want to question a man who is sacrificed every Tuesday night at the ire of his family and his wife for the Carolina Panthers? You want to talk about a man who keeps doing this even though y'all jokers who are watching the damn show right now, and right now there are, let me tell you this.
That's pretty funny though, man.
36 of y'all jokers watching the show, and we only got 17 likes. And you talking about me? Shoot.
They're shooting shots at you, Tony.
I want to remind everybody this is the same brother right here who, when it came to the Pats Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl, it was also the election year where people were still pissed about right after the election, people were still pissed that Donald Trump got voted for president, and there was that trending hashtag not my president. And I went to the bar, and I had to go to the bar to watch the Super Bowl, and I wore a placard around my body that said not my Super Bowl. And and I put both of these teams are cheaters. They're cheaters because the Falcons have pumped crowd noise into the place. We know the long history of cheating when it comes to the Patriots. And anytime the game came on, Cody, I turned my back to the televisions. The only time I would submit myself to direct contact with the TV is when a commercial was on. That's what this guy's about.
The whole game?
That's what this guy right here is about, guys. So fine. Sorry. So sorry. I get it. Actually, I think it's the fun thing for fans to do is to really go after them and just stab it in, rub a little salt in the wound. I would expect it from a lot of fans to do it to us if it happened to us. I don't know how classy and authentic. I'm just being honest. That's it. Is that I want the Saints I wanted them to lose like 40-0. And I really feel like I don't know if they really lost. What I felt like is I watched the Rams and they never were ahead in that game. And they didn't. And even though they did some respectable things to stay in it, I don't think they just look head and shoulders like a better team at all. So,
listen, man, I maintain what I said to you, what I said to Bob Rose. Yes, was that a pass interference? Absolutely. What idiot doesn't see that and think that it isn't? But what I will say, though, is that the Saints, especially at the end of the game, they did themselves no favors. That's why I'm not into the crying and the whining and, oh, my God, look what happened. The Saints did themselves absolutely no favors. I'm not on board the train of, oh, man, the referees gave that to them. Yeah, was it a bad call? Yes. But how many Sundays in a row do we ever go of not having a bad call in a football game?
Sure.
And, yeah, it was in the NFC Championship game. But listen, man.
And the last play, like the arguably last play.
But listen, I'll say this, man. In the damn Super Bowl, Jericho caught this motherfucking ball, man. Pardon me.
That's why they call him Jericho Catchery. He's Jericho Catchery, and that's the real New Orleans seasoning. There's a Tony Catcheries or Catch. If y'all from New Orleans, y'all tell me how y'all say it. Everybody I've ever heard say Tony Catcheries or whatever it is. It's a good Louisiana type rub.
Tony Sasheries.
Shashery. I've heard a bazillion different ways of pronouncing it, but you know what we call that? This is the better rub right here. It's the Jericho Catchery.
This is the Jericho statue.
There we go. But no, is all right. And let's see what else we got. Another cat call on the line. I get it. Is that? But and in my and what I will point out this. I guess I'm defending my fandom here. I always hate when you got to defend your fandom. Like people are like, you fake fan. You a fake fan. I'll be like, gosh, that's just all right. Anyway, the one thing I would say is this: is that I am tired. Like Josh from Mass said, of people talking junk about anytime that they talk junk about the Panthers not winning the Super Bowl, about Cam Newton not jumping on that ball. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? And so like it's annoying to me when the things that don't that are not the most important are just elevated in importance, except for times like when he's getting blasted in the head or that catch. And you just want them to win on the field and lose on the field. That's it. And I think that that's what Bob Rose's point was, is that the corruption is in the fact that that things that they have such a large influence of the game at times, and sometimes it's just so flawed. But enough of that. We got one more call. The number's 252-228-5098.
Hey guys, this is Jedi. I just wanted to call in before the end of the show. Yeah, being from Charlotte and being somewhat of a history buff, I kind of know a little bit about Queen Charlotte. And,
yeah, drop some knowledge on this,
from
man.
Mecklenburg, which is part of northern Germany. One of the other kind of cool trivia things about her is she was one of the first mixed queens. I know a lot of attention was given to Meghan Markle this past year, for her being mulatto and being entered into the royal family. But Queen Charlotte was one of the first.
Nice.
I am excited about the London game. It should be interesting. I guess the question out there for you guys is, what's your Premier League team? I've always kind of ran with Liverpool just because they're fun to play with in FIFA.
All right. Sports trivia here for you. What is the number one selling game in the EA franchise?
In history. The EA franchise?
In history.
I think in America it's Madden, but worldwide it probably has to be FIFA.
It is FIFA by like a mile. So I don't know enough about, and I'm gonna make these cats across the pond. I'm gonna turn off the podcast. I don't really watch soccer, and that's right. I call it soccer because I'm American. I call a pig that has been slow cooked over charcoals and smothered in vinegar barbecue as well. It's a noun.
As it should be.
Right?
As it should be.
Exactly. But if it comes, I don't know if they're in the Premier League because I think they were almost got booted out for being bad for a couple of years. But for me, this is the easy answer of Swansea. Right there. Just on the name alone, Swansea is my team. I believe they're from Wales. And I think Jay Cryer gets pissed at me when I say I like Swansea.
Dude, so I remember during the 2015 season, there was some club that went on some historic run, and they were even showing love to the official Panthers Twitter, and our Twitter shouted them out. I'm sure I'm going to butcher this also. Leicester or Leicester? I don't know.
It's not Lancaster?
No, that's not. Okay. It's L-I-E Caster, I believe. But they were supporting the Panthers really hard. So I don't know, man. I just say to them, listen, if I'm being honest, I don't give a damn about a sport that doesn't have a lot of violence in it. My favorite sports are MMA and football. Dude.
Hey, did Greg Hardy win his fight the other night?
No, man, got disqualified.
Disqualified? Yeah, how do you get disqualified in MMA? I didn't even think they had rules.
Of course they do. There's a ton of ways. He threw a knee to the head of a downed opponent. So the opponent, his knee was on the ground. He wasn't standing up, and you're not allowed to knee them in the head in that position. So, yeah, Greg Hardy's career isn't going too well. Yeah, Ken Dye has it. Leicester.
Leicester.
Whoever the hell they are, man.
We'll have to have Rich or Jay Cryer to call in and pronounce it for us. For me, hey, have I ever told you how I believe that I can fix soccer?
No, you haven't, but
right,
I'm super interested.
All right, so here's the thing, is that the end problem with soccer, and especially for people, I think Ken said this, running around for hours and score a goal at some point. The end problem for soccer or football is that there's not enough scoring, right? That's the ultimate problem. Now, hockey went through this problem in the 90s when the goalie pads got so giant that goalies could literally almost take up the entire net. And if they wore baggy jerseys, there was like 0 places to put the puck in. So what they did then is because they didn't want to change the size of the goal because of the history of it, they shrank the pads. Now, here's the problem, though, is that the similar problem here is that you cannot change the size of the goal in soccer. In fact, some of the reasons it's so absurd to me watching the sport is how do they have so much problem scoring when the goal is the size of a school bus? So you can't make the goal bigger. So here is the solution. Jockey goalies.
On a horse?
No, just the little people who ride the horse. Put a height limit for the goalie.
Dude, really? I like my idea better, man. Put a giant goal on the field and make them ride a horse and have to ride back and forth to defend the damn thing.
No, do you know when you go on a roller coaster and it says you have to be this tall?
Yeah, there's a height limit.
Yeah, except for this one says you cannot play goalie if you were taller than this height.
So what? They gotta be like 5'4"?
Yeah, 4'8". Like the jockeys are like these jockeys are little people, dude. They are tiny, tiny people. Other things that could be done is I think a 2-point and a 3-point like circles. If you hit the shot from this spot on the field, they're worth more points and you make it. I like that one. And kind of like, what was that basketball game they used to play that was like on the trampoline or whatever, and the ball would light up at certain times, and then it was like worth like 5 points if they made it. You could have a power ball like that. I do believe that jockey goalies could be the answer to the scoring problems. Shrinking the pads was the answer in hockey. Shrinking the goalies is the answer in soccer.
All right, let's turn to the chat room. Chat room, what would you rather see? Soccer with miniature goalkeepers or a giant goal and a man riding a horse defending the net? I know where my vote is. I said put horses on the field because why not,
You're mixing sports now. Polo and soccer going together. All right, let's get back into the show. Is that we fixed? You know what? My cousin makes fun. My cousin makes fun of me of this. He goes, "You're trying to fix the most popular sport in the world."
Yeah,
and he always says #fix World Cup. All right. So let's go ahead.
Americans.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and put up talk about some rumors coming about the defense here.
Yes.
Joe Person from The Athletic reported this, but then we got the report secondhand because I have yet to pay for anything on the internet, really. I do pay. Right. Actually, I already pay for the Charlotte Observer and the sports page. I bought a package where you get Raleigh and the Charlotte Observer unlimited, and it was like $30 a year. I did that a long time ago, and I would say I didn't waste $30. I probably could have just read the things on different computers, my phone, my desktop, and gotten away with it. But hey, you want to support an institution. I have been thinking about subscribing to The Athletic, and Joe Person puts this out. Go ahead and put it up, Cody. Ken Dye says a midget riding a Shetland pony. Yeah. Oh gosh.
The comments are off the rails, but I'm here for it. I love it. All right. So it is being reported that the Panthers are considering a shift to a 3-4 defense. Now, I find this really interesting because some of the more dominant defenses in the past, few years, the Broncos come to mind instantly. A few other really good teams out there. Even the Rams now.
The Steelers have actually always struggled against 3-4 defenses. That's why you like it.
We have. And but my only concern is that I don't want us to do this for the wrong reasons. I do think that a 4-3 defense can be dominant, but it's all about the players that you have. You have to have dominant players at the right position. But, I mean, this is interesting, though, because you're talking about if this happens, it changes the kind of players that you're looking at in free agency and in the draft. So, for example, Josh Allen, he's an outside linebacker. He might be the second best edge rusher behind Bosa in the draft. And now, all of a sudden, if we're a 3-4 defense, that's someone who's in play for us. A dominant edge rusher who's fast, makes plays all the time. I don't know. How do you feel about this kind of move?
All right, so I think that Josh Klein from Roaring Riot put up a great tweet. There's a difference between shifting completely to a 3-4 philosophy, and there's a difference between that and being able to give a 3-4 look at times in a league that is getting faster and with a lot of wide receivers. I think it was Panthers CSP. I believe he writes for Cat Scratch Reader, and he is from Canada. He put this up, and it's like his name is like Fun Dave or something like that on Twitter right now. People change their name so much, it's hard to keep up with him at times. But he said something that I thought was also interesting, is that like, hey, the idea of a pure 3-4 defense might not be the most accurate, is that it could be a 3-2-5 or a
3-3-5.
Yeah, or so 3-3-5 or a
4-2-5.
Yeah, whatever those are. Right. And so that it's really, I think that these are easier things for us to interpret from back in the day, because you hear 3-4, 4-3, like it's easy to understand, because then you don't have to start counting the defensive backs as well. I do want to say is that Ron Rivera has had some success with the 3-4 defense, and that was when he was in San Diego, I believe. And that is that when he took over as defensive coordinator, I believe it was in San Diego, that he was used to or accustomed to a 4-3 with the Bears. But then when he was, had to go to San Diego at the time, that he had to coach a 3-4, and that he did it successfully there. I don't know how, for me, it's really hard to answer, because I don't know how well or how deep this goes philosophically for the players on the team as well as the coaches. Is this something as easy as just fitting the personnel in and all of a sudden you can teach it right? Or, is Ron Rivera even rusty on it? So those are concerns for me there right away. But at the same time, we don't right now, I think, have great personnel for a 4-3 either.
No, and listen, and I want to make this clear. Now, if this is going to happen, this isn't something that they have to lollygag on. This needs to be a decision that needs to be made, and it needs to be made fast, because that's going to determine the types of players that we're going after in free agency, and that determines the types of players that we target in the draft. And you have to understand that you're going to need a full cycle of injecting your team with the type of players that fit that kind of defense. So, now, if we're looking at, the 16th pick in the draft, if we're dead set on an edge rusher, well, all of a sudden, Cleveland Farrell from my Clemson Tigers, who's a hand in the dirt 4-3 defensive end, that might not be the best fit. Even though my man can play standing up, you have to make sure that you have players that fit what you do. And it opens up doors for certain players and closes the doors on other ones. And Ben Bowman, was it Ben? No, Jedi Jorah says that Poe fits better in a 3-4. And that is true. Dontari Poe was originally a 0 tech. That means you're just a sack full of garbage, man. You're just immovable. Okay, that means you don't let anyone buy.
Is that what he did in Kansas?
Yes, that's what he was in Kansas. And then when he went to the Falcons, they made him lose a bunch of weight in order to be able to play at 1 tech. So, yeah, as of right now, we have maybe one player that truly fits that mold. That's what I'm saying. You have to have make a concerted effort to have the people on the field to be able to do this. And you need another inside linebacker next to Luke. So, that a lot goes into this. If we're able to do it, I'm not opposed, because I do think, having a 5-on-5, 3 linemen and 2 linebackers on top of 5 offensive linemen, that's a hat on a hat. So, and that's why a lot of teams do it at the line of scrimmage. And you add in Luke, the best sideline to sideline linebacker in the NFL. It's not a bad move. You just have to have the right players.
Could you run it with just Shaq and Luke? I don't see why you couldn't. Wouldn't they? That seemed like they would fit good, because Shaq is almost a little bit, I would say weaker in pass coverage, and you maybe give Luke Kuechly some of those responsibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also makes Devin White, the linebacker out of LSU, a much more enticing pick in the first round, considering he would fall to us, because that's another dominant inside linebacker, and now you would have 2 of those at that position. I don't think that Shaq would be bad in that spot, but he would have to – there are more responsibilities now, because he has to hold down a whole side of the field, It's different from having a Will linebacker and a Sam linebacker to now those outside linebackers, their main role is to rush the passer. I mean, that's what they do now. Your Von Millers of the world. That's what that is. So cannot be half-hearted.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, is that, you can't just say, well, we're going to see which one works better from week to week and time to time. Because the personnel requirements are so much different. I also would point out this, is that here's an article that's talking about when we were hiring Ron Rivera as head coach in 2011. In Rivera's first full season running San Diego's 3-4 defense in 2009, the Chargers finished 16th in the league in total defense and 11th against the pass. The Chargers were first in the NFL this season in total defense. So this would have been the following year. So 2010. So he took over midway in 2008 and was promoted from linebackers coach to replace Ted Cottrell midway through the season. He then, in his next year, the first full season, 2009, was then made this a 16th overall defense, 11th against the pass. And then in 2010, his first full season as defensive coordinator, they were top in the league it looks like total defense and 10th in points allowed. I think that was one of the things that people were impressed about with Ron, was the flexibility of that moment. I guess my final point on it is this. Is that, look, he says we haven't been built historically for that. So I do believe that you're right, is that, like, this can't be half-hearted. And, it's a difference between saying we'll try it on a couple of plays when we think it can help us to have some more defensive backs out there or something like that. That's not a shift. That's just like, hey, that's a situational thing. But if you're trying to play half and half, that's going to be tough with personnel making it work. It's going to be a lot to learn and prepare for. And then is that also, if you are fully making this shift entirely to a 3-4, you can't think it's not going to come without some growing pains. That would be hard for me, is to believe that it would just come smoothly. You're talking about a team that hasn't brought in a different defensive coordinator, so like you're talking about now Eric Washington and Ron Rivera just better at calling this system than the other system. So some growing pains there. And Cody, my last point in that, and I'll turn the mic over to you, is while I've seen teams be very successful in running a 3-4 defense, I've also felt like I've seen teams in the past try to make the change to running a 3-4 and it not go well. And the team that I keep thinking about is like the Jets. And the Jets used to, this is when they drafted that cat out of North Carolina who what was his name? In fact, a lot of Panthers wanted him to be a free agent. He ended up going to going to Los Angeles. What was that guy's name? From Carolina, started with a C, I think, his last name. But he was a kind of, long, athletic dude that they asked to do so much. And it just I feel like at the same time, you have to bet a lot on nailing a defensive end that is just supremely athletic.
Yeah, and remember, Mario Addison started his career as an outside linebacker, as a 3-4 outside linebacker. So, and hell, even think of it this way. So one of the things you have to understand is how positions translate from one to another. So what K1 Short is in our system is a 3-technique defensive tackle. In a 3-4 defense, that would make him a defensive end. So maybe, now it's also a way for us to put Vernon Butler on the field if they're so adamant about playing him as a 3-tech. Now he's the defensive end on the other side of Don Taripo if Don Taripo comes back for another year, which is under contract. So I'm assuming that's what's going to happen. You have to make a concerted effort to do this. And in my opinion, it's the Cardinals. No, what was the team? Buffalo. Buffalo forever ran a 3-4 defense, and they had all these defensive coordinators that came in.
That was when Rex came in, yeah.
Yeah. They tried to make it work with a bunch of different people, and it just never does. And so this is why, for my money, it doesn't matter if we're running a 4-3 or a 3-4. As you said right now, we don't even have the best personnel for what we run right now. There has to be the right players on the football team. I'm not in love with one over the other because I think that both of them are dominant. I mean, take your pick. Do you want to look like the 2013 Seattle Seahawks, which was an incredible defense? And even us, the Panthers in 2013, our defense was incredible. Or do you want to look like the 2015 Denver Broncos? Which was also a nasty defense.
I'll take either.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Or do you want to look like the 2010 Buffalo Bills?
Yeah, no one wants to look like that, I promise you. But we do have some players. Like I said, the last thing I'll say is if we're going to do it, we have to make the decision soon. Because you want an entire free agency period and an entire draft where you're focusing on players that fit those specific needs on your defensive line. You have to do it.
Do you think it would help the linebackers? Would it give
who are you talking about?
The one thing that I do think that has been problematic with the defense that we've run is that we've always had to just put 2 linebackers out there anyway. Like, we've never been great when we had 3 linebackers. So if you're running a system, though, that is more tailored to having – I mean, I know it sounds like you have more linebackers, but they're not really linebackers. They're defensive ends who stand up, right? So, to me, does this
really
help –
defensive ends.
Yeah, does this help Luke Kuechly, his game, or does it ask him to do more? I don't know. Myself. I can't answer it.
I don't think it asks him to do more because, I mean, really, it depends on, like I said, it depends on the player. Von Miller, he might weigh less than your opposing right tackle, but he's never been a liability in run defense, or being able to hold up against the run. And, there's a trade-off, though, because in a 4-3, you might have one extra offensive lineman to be able to help you block. But if you're having an outside linebacker defend against the run, they weigh a lot less. So teams sometimes will run right at them. But that's where your linebackers are so important. And if Luke is on the field and even Shaq Thompson, I do feel as though we would be able to transition 2 or 3, 4. I think relatively easy.
I think Shaq would look good in it. I think Shaq would look good in it, to be honest.
It might benefit him even more to do that than what he's been doing, playing the will linebacker.
All right, so let's move on. You listen to the C3 Panthers podcast. Go ahead and smash the thumbs up button. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, all those different places. Well, let's talk about this. It's something we mentioned in passing, and not even in passing. It was a topic on the show that you called out last week, and that is about the reporting from David Newton and how Bill Voth had called him irresponsible for reporting that the owner, I think the headline read something to the effect of that the owner is not ruling out is not ruling out that Cam Newton could sit out the whole season. So you tell me, Cody, is that were you surprised? I was a little surprised how much this took off the story nationally following this report, and how it seemed like the damage control that was tried to be done by local reporters was not enough to temper the voices, to drown out the voices that this is what could potentially be the deal. So where are you at a week removed from this?
Pretty much right where I was. I don't think that anyone in the organization, including David Tepper himself, ever even insinuated that Cam Newton could sit out the rest of the year. I think that it was something, and it shows you how lazy journalism is, because of course then you have people like Colin Cowherd just jumping on Cam Newton, and all these other people coming out and talking about, oh, well, this is what happens when you're running the quarterback. And even Stephen A. Smith was talking, oh, well, he was able to run the ball early, and then he got hurt. And then that's, when they couldn't run Cam Newton because they had to protect his shoulder, that's when everything went downhill. Dude, Cam Newton was dropping dimes from the pocket early this season when we were 6-2. Okay, so it's not a matter of Cam Newton doing anything. He just got hurt, and we still don't know what that injury is or was. But as of right now, until a medical professional or Cam Newton comes out and says that there's a problem with the shoulder that has the potential to, limit him for the season to the point where you would have to sit him, there is literally no reason to think that Cam Newton wouldn't be playing quarterback next year for the Panthers as our number one. I mean, it's lazy journalism, and David Newton is a scourge, man. I cannot stand him.
The only thing is I tried to calm everybody and say this is a headline that is written in a way that was meant to get people talking and to get people clicking. But the only thing that I've been worried about and concerned is that there hasn't been like a forceful rebuttal from the Panthers. And what I mean by that is, you send Bill Voth out there. That's critical of them. A lot of the reporters, it was almost like as that they were self-regulating themselves, as the reporters trying to get on David Newton. But no apology from David Newton. No, I haven't heard anything that says like, hey, maybe that wasn't. I think they may have changed the headline, but I guess maybe, and this is just how fragile I am on the subject, that it slightly concerns me that they didn't just come out and be like, this is the worst worst job done by this David Newton guy, and we're not even letting him in the, I don't know. And it's just a shroud of mystery. So the Cam Newton saga continues. As usual, the Panthers season lives and dies and hinges on number 1, Cam Newton. We'll be following that closely. Let's do this. Is that Cody, you're a draft guy. We know the draft is going to be coming up. But before the draft gets here, and while we're all looking at the combine and things, is that we're also going to be there's an important step in the offseason that like Dave Gettleman used to say, you use free agency to set up your draft. Free agency is a critical component, especially if there were some changes in the background on the defensive side of the ball and you were to move to a 3-4. But it's going to be a critical component of the Panthers offseason. So this week, what we're going to begin is the process of previewing a potential free agent pick that the Panthers could make in addition to this team that could hopefully add to the rebuilding or the retooling, getting the Panthers back on track. This week, Cody, I think you wanted to start with the defense.
Yeah, so we made this before the news that, the rumor that we might be going to a 3-4, but I still think that even if we did go to a 3-4, this player would be a very good pickup for us. But with this in mind, this is with the mindset that we are still going to be running the same 4-3 defense in 2019. And today we premiere our segment of Better Know a Panthers free agent pick. Today, our first pick that we are going to be previewing on the show is New England Patriots defensive end Trey Flowers. And let me tell you what, Trey Flowers absolutely does it all. He is a dominant defensive lineman on the edge, and he has great pass rushing moves. He has a dominant stiff arm that he's able to use to disengage from the tackle, make some separation, and get inside. Trust me, Matt Ryan, as you're seeing here, remembers Trey Flowers well. Trey does a lot of things well. He is around 270 pounds, 6'4". This inside swim move that Trey Flowers has is absolutely nasty. And he uses it time and time again to be able to wreak havoc from the interior and the exterior of the defensive line. He has great awareness. He knows when the ball is coming his way. He gets his hands up in the way of the pass, and he's patient. He knows how to set up his moves and put himself in the right position to be able to affect the quarterback at all times. Trey Flowers might receive a contract from the Patriots, and he might not. But for my money, this dominant defensive end, he would be absolutely perfect on the Panthers defense. Trey Flowers is powerful, strong, and that bull rush that he displays, it's dominant, man. Trey Flowers is a dominant player, and if you put him on the offensive line, even with Mario Addison, even with K'Wan Short, he might be our most dominant player because we haven't had a true edge rusher to be able to win his assignments on the regular since Greg Hardy in 2013, in my opinion. Trey Flowers is a dominant player and would upgrade our defensive line a ton. We'd be way better than we are right now.
So what I like about this idea, first is a little background on Trey Flowers, is that Trey is he's a former 4th-round pick, 6'4". Yeah. He was selected in 2015. He's 25 years old. He'll be 26 in August. I think this is kind of a sweet spot for defensive ends because what a smash and grab this is in the draft to land this guy in the 4th round and to have some really, if you're going back and looking at that Atlanta Super Bowl, that's 2 Super Bowls ago. You're talking about a guy who balled out in that Super Bowl and also has just been a beast playing for the big contract in the postseason this year. Those are things that I like there is this is a guy who seems to be kind of a versatile defensive end, isn't just primarily and only based on a speed or an outside speed rush. I like that. I like the idea too that he's kind of in the sweet spot where he is kind of settled into the NFL. I think it's a tough position. I've said it over and over when it comes to the defensive end. It's hard to make that jump, but kudos to the Patriots. And I don't want to say that, but this is what we need, man. We need to land somebody in the 4th round, very similar to Charles Johnson back in 2006 or whatever, who a couple of years down the road, you might as well assume that they were a 1st or 2nd round pick because of how well they've been playing. So last question here. Any way that this is feasible financially?
Well, so we haven't been through our list of players that we have to either sign or cut and let go. There's a few players that are on the books that we might clear out to be able to sign a player like this. But listen, I imagine that you don't want to go into the draft needing, so many different players. David Gettleman, another Gettleman-ism that I love to bring up is that you don't want to shop hungry.
Yep.
And if you go into the draft saying, man, I need 2 defensive ends, one to put where Julius Peppers was, and another for next year, 2020, if we use Mario Addison, you want to be able to fill some of those needs so that way you're in the position to be able to take the best player available. If you put Trey Flowers on the defensive line, I mean, listen, that's an instant upgrade of what we do. It puts us in a position to be able to grab a Devin White out of LSU, a Nasir Adley out of Delaware. Even
a better question is what do you do if you don't add a guy in free agency who's a legit guy? What do you do? Is your defensive line again just going to be like this floundering thing? I mean, is that Addison ain't getting better and younger, and now Julius Peppers on the other side is piecing out probably, or I mean, you can't count on that. So this is going to take some radical stuff and it's got to be on the defensive side. It needs to be all linemen. There needs to be one on each side in free agency and one on each side in the draft.
It really does, man. I mean, football is won and lost in the trenches. And something that is kind of worrisome, if you look at Philadelphia and Los Angeles, the Rams, what they've done the past 2 years is they have gone and given every dominant player that they can money to come and compete for a Super Bowl right now. And the fact of the matter is the Panthers just don't have that kind of cap. I mean, we're not in the position to be able to go sign an Ndamukong Suh and an Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters and all these different players, and they're grabbing from everywhere to say we're going to win this year. The Panthers just don't have that kind of cap. So if you're going to spend money on one player, you have to make sure that it is the player that makes you 100% better right now.
That he's young and healthy.
25.
Young and healthy. You cannot
in
go
the prime
old
of his career
or potentially with a hidden injury. And if we can sign Matt Khalil, we can sign this guy. I don't know. Joey's asking what kind of money do you think he's going to make? I don't know. What are DNs making these days? Upwards of 13 million a year?
I don't. So also keep in mind 2 other people that are free agents that might either up or lower the contract that Trey ends up grabbing. Jadeveon Clowney and DeMarcus Lawrence, who I'm positive at some point we will be previewing as well. But if I'm guessing right now, I'm thinking probably somewhere between $10 and $13 million a year.
Oh, it's gonna be higher probably. Ezekiel Ansah, I guess he was franchise tagged maybe this year. I'm not 100%.
That's another one.
He got $17 million this year a year. You're looking at Chandler Jones is averaging about $16.5 million a year. Melvin Ingram 16, JPP 15. So you're up there in the 15, 16, 17 numbers probably.
But the thing that does help us though is that his numbers. So a lot of times the players' numbers, they're not exactly indicative of how dominant he was on the field. But sometimes that'll help you out when you have to pay the player. So as of this season, he had 7.5 sacks on the year, but he has been a nightmare in run defense. And I also think that if you put him on this defense, and, K'Wan Short has to have a matchup of his own, and, maybe if you draft another player, you're putting Trey Flowers in a position to be on one-on-one matchups. And that's going to benefit him a lot. So I don't know. It could end up going higher, but I don't think that he has the numbers to command that, $18, $20 million,
Von Miller money.
Yeah, not Von Miller money. I'm not thinking that that's what he's going to be able to get out there.
Well, so it could be a reasonable grab, maybe unreasonable. It never seems like we have any money. We only got 8 minutes left on the show. I actually have timed it, so it has to close at 11. Last thing here, piggybacking on some of the comments, as Torrey Smith comes out. Torrey Smith, really opinionated guy, and comes out and I like Torrey Smith, is that I don't necessarily think that he's adds a ton to our team necessarily at this moment, but I like him as a person. I think he seems to be a pretty genuine and cool dude. He comes out and puts up this tweet, Cody, that is discussing, and I think this is just pointing out some of the social taboos and problems of the way we view things. And he says, look, and I guess it was unpopular opinion today. Another opinion that shouldn't be unpopular is I'm more afraid of folks that drink alcohol than I am of folks who smoke marijuana. FYI, I don't smoke or drink. Hey, I think this is, you don't ever hear about people getting stoned and blowing things up and stuff. But the real tweet, though, comes from Pat Coltrane. You can listen to his show on YouTube. He does Train Stop. And he says this: linebacker Torrey Smith says he likes to smoke the weed. Quote, David Newton.
And you know what? That's not even out of the realm of possibilities of some shit that David Newton would do.
You know how the only reason we knew David Newton didn't do it, Cody? He spelled Torrey Smith right.
Touche. Yeah. Touche. David Newton would have never spelled that name.
No, right. It would have been T-O-R-I or T-O-R-Y, Tory, right? All right, so that's that for that. I want to ask two things. I want to put out a plug real quick, and then we'll get to our Ice Up picks. The plug goes to a podcast I've been listening to, Cody. I have been binge listening. Well, not like super binging, but Stitcher and Marvel got together and did a Wolverine podcast. And I am not the biggest superhero nerd in the world. I'm not even close to being a superhero nerd. But I like this new genre of podcasts that are emerging in these like dramas, these audio dramas, these serials that they're putting out. And this one is very good.
Yeah, listen, you may not be a super nerd. I've always been a super nerd of that kind of stuff, man. I love it. Wolverine's one of my favorite characters. I did see you share it. I haven't listened to it yet. I've been busy, but I definitely do intend on listening to it. I love the X-Men. That's my all-time favorite series.
And something that's been trending on Twitter that caught my eye is some people are talking junk about Southern food today. I don't know why this is a thing on Twitter, but I've actually been mean to people on the internet over their opinions on foods. Kyle Bailey calling out deviled eggs. I think deviled eggs are good, man. I don't know what your problem is with that. He got some problems with collard greens. I told everybody to stay away from Eastern North Carolina barbecue. You's be in trouble if you mess with that. Some people are talking a lot of junk about gravy. I got no problem with this. The only one I think is that, do you got any problems with Southern food, Cody? Mine are boiled peanuts and maybe red hot dogs. Like, not a fan of red hot dogs. Don't like boiled peanuts.
Man, I as someone that was born and raised in the South, I don't have anything that comes to mind that's that
is there anything sacred? Because to me, there are some things sacred. Barbecue, cornbread, Brunswick stew,
grits. Shit, I love me some grits.
Yeah, love grits. A lot of people, so Travis Hancock, WFNZ, was talking junk about that. And for me, also, something that has to be and must be protected, biscuits and gravy. It's like that fried chicken, like, folks, you got to deal with that. The hamburger steak, that type. All right. This is the C3 Panthers podcast. We're at the end of the show. We've talked about a lot.
And country fried steak. That just popped into my head. Country fried steak with gravy. Oh, my God, man.
Yep. You got to love that. You got to love a food that's not the food that it's called. You're like, right. That is not, or chicken fried steak, a lot of people call it, right? And you're like, that's not chicken.
No, not chicken.
But it's delicious. But it's delicious.
Oh my God!
All right, so we got 3 minutes to make these ice up picks. Ice up picks of the week. This is the longest running segment of the show where we tell somebody ice up, toughen up to get it together. Cody, who you got for us this week?
Yeah, man. So I do this with my man Joe Riolano in mind. And I know this is something that's near and dear to his heart, and it's near and dear to my heart as well. CBS has rejected a medical marijuana commercial that was set to air during the Super Bowl halftime, or sometime during the Super Bowl. And if you don't know, I don't care what your stance on marijuana is. Marijuana is one of the best medicines for children that undergo very intense grand mal seizures, and all veterans with PTSD. I mean, this is a lifesaver for them to be able to, not have to go through these terrible ailments that they suffer from. And CBS pulled the plug and said, no, you're not going to air this. Specifically when you're talking about football players that abuse barbiturates and they take all these pills and it damages them. You're not going to give them access to a natural drug to help them out. This is absolutely unacceptable. If you're not down with medical marijuana, you're not down with me. So to CBS and whoever decided to not let this by, ice up, son.
Maybe that's why Tori's putting this out there. On top of that, guys, is that if you're going to put on the ED drugs all day long, let's not act like you're too high and mighty for all this. Is that there's a problem with pain pills out there in America. So this seems like the least threatening, but I'm gonna let Cody take this one. My ice up pick of the week goes to, I was gonna go after some people talking junk about like birther stuff and things like that, but I'm going non whatever political this week. And that is in England. I think it was in England. It was a 33-year-old man who injected his own semen intravenously for a year and a half into his own arm. It was a self-developed cure intended to treat his chronic back pain. Reportedly sent him 18 months later with seeking medical attention, but for his arm that swelled up and looked like it was going to explode. The doses of semen were giving him problems in his blood vessels. So you guys, I'm going to tell you this, is that you might be able to try to trick and tell your lady that it's a medicine. But man, if you really start treating it as a medicine that you inject in your body, that's some weird mess. That's some weird mess right there. So Cody, I'm going to ice up this dude. And I'm going to say this, is that I've always kind of had a weird thing about these types of stories ever since Metallica did an album called Reload. And I learned that the cover was an artist who experimented with semen and his own semen and blood and took pictures of it. And that was their cover. I was like, man, I don't want your damn album. Get this mess out of here.
You haven't experimented with semen and blood in your artwork? No. Come on, man.
You haven't lived.
You haven't lived. Hey, man, I wonder if that guy's right arm feels nuts.
Hey, zing. All right. This is the C3 Panthers. Oh, by the way, you semen man, semen shot arm, whatever you call that. What is that? A synjection. What? It's like we got to find out how to make ejaculation and injection one word. But that is what it is. To you, sir, I say ice up. My name's Tony Dunn. This is the C3 Panthers podcast. Jake Delhomme says, thanks for ruining my dinner, Tony. Hey, take it. Thanks to this dude for that. My name's Tony Dunn. It's the C3 Panthers podcast, and this is the time I got to remind you guys to subscribe to the show and remember that fuck the Saints. Oh, sorry.
Fuck the Saints.
Right. So that's to make all y'all believe in me again. My name's Tony Dunn. Follow me at @cat_Chronicles. Subscribe, share, donate, whatever you think is cool. And Cody, how can they find you? What's happening?
At Cody Lack on Twitter. Tomorrow there will be a brand new draft on drafttech.com with comments for the first and second round pick. Check that out. That's drafttech.com. Senior Bowl this week, so hit me up, talk about draft projects, free agency prospects, and anything else, man. I'm approachable.
All
That's
right.
it, man.
Joey said injeculation.
Joey with the ejaculation.
Oh, all right.
Man.
All right, we'll check you out next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. We'll see you then on Pirate Radio on Fridays, Pirate Radio 1250. And hit us up, and we'll chat some football. And I'll keep pounding, and I got some surprises for you guys when it comes to that England thing. I'm already working in the background. Got some magic in the works. We'll see you next Tuesday, guys.
Keep pounding, fam.
Enjoy all your favorite sports like never before at BetMGM. Sign up using code Hawkeye and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. When you register with BetMGM, you'll get instant access to a variety of parlay selection features, live betting options, player props, and the best daily promotions in the business. And with BetMGM at your fingertips, every play and every game matters more than ever. Place your money line, prop, and parlay bets with the king of sportsbooks today. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly and offer resources to help you make appropriate choices. BetMGM.com for T's and C's. 21 plus to wager. Iowa only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days from issuance. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
Be a barbecue hero with delicious, ultra-low net-carb Hero Bread, buns, and tortillas. Soft and fluffy, high in fiber, and with 0 grams of sugar, up to 10 grams of protein, coming in at under 100 calories per serving. Oh, and did I mention they taste like their mouth-watering traditional versions? I mean, what's not to love? Use code AH10 for 10% off your first Hero Bread purchase at hero.co. That's AH10 for 10% off at hero.co.